One of our brethren some years ago spoke of the payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming. For that shall be a day of judgment, a day of sifting, a day of separating the good from the evil. I would venture a personal opinion that no event has occurred in all the history of the earth as dreadful as will be the day of the second coming, as fraught with the destructive forces of nature, as consequential for the nations of the earth, as terrible for the wicked, and as wonderful for the righteous.
The Lord wants all his children to partake of the eternal blessings available in his temple. He has directed what each person must do to qualify to enter his holy house. All requirements to enter the temple relate to personal holiness. To assess that readiness, each person who wants to enjoy the blessings of the temple will have 2 interviews. First, with a bishop, bishopric counselor, or branch president. Second, with a stake or mission president or one of his counselors. In those interviews, several questions will be asked. Some of those questions have recently been edited for clarity. I would like to review them for you now. Are you a full tithe payer?
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, since I did the wrong video this morning, let's do it now. Since YouTube, the damage they caused yesterday with their cyber terrorist attack on me, there's still some damage that's been caused and still trying to get it fixed, but we'll get her done. But first, Carol Yearsley, my distant cousin, is brand new and doesn't understand that I hold all comments for review. And so her comment to my 1980s LDS Youth of the Noble Birthright, hey, that was this morning. That was the wrong video. She is thinking that Spencer W. Kimball wrote Miracle of Forgiveness, not Packer. I think you misunderstood what I was saying, or I didn't say it right, or I took out words shortening my speech that caused confusion. Benson in April conference. He becomes the president of the church to the youth of the noble birthright. He is quoting from the Miracle of Forgiveness written by Spencer W. Kimball. You are correct. And in so doing, he makes the Miracle of Forgiveness canon law for the church. It's now scripture. If you understand Mormon doctrine correctly. And so thus it was made required reading before going on my mission to make me feel guilty. But in that book, Miracle of Forgiveness, written by Spencer W. Kimball, and even though he's the president of the church, just because he writes a book, it's not over the pulpit of conference, and therefore it's not canon. Only what's spoken over the pulpit of conference becomes canon. That's why I humiliate Russell Marion Nelson every time he speaks at the pulpit of conference, because every single time he creates new canon. That's wrong. And I don't think Mormons understand this. And, you've got Oakes who confuses you and says, no, all 15 prophets need to unanimously agree in order to make canon law. Sorry, Oakes. Wait till you're the president and see if you still agree with that. All of a sudden, it will change. I never said that. It's gone. Oh no, it's all of a sudden gone. I never gave a talk that conference. I must have been sick. I was the designated survivor of that conference. Kimball is quoting Packer, Elder Packer, in a conference talk. You see, there used to be a problem in the church for conference, in which members of the 70 were the most guilty. But it's been deleted, but in Faust's final farewell conference talk, because he died afterward, he didn't say, I will know no better than I know now. Nope, instead he gave counsel to his fellow prophets, warning them not to create their own doctrine at the pulpit of conference. And it was deleted. After he died, gone. So if anybody has that VHS tape, get it converted, get it online in a digital format, link me to it. Because the church won't post it. Just like Elder Pullman's 1982 October conference talk, which, if you go to the church, gone. And so if you add up the number of talks, you'll find that it's short of a conference. What happened? What's going on? Did they end early? They removed his talk after I was doing videos exposing it. And so, yeah, I have his original, I have his revised, I have the one where some guy on YouTube merged them together to show you the differences. That was a huge scandal. And that was part of the problem, is that members or those speaking in conference were not told what to say. And it became an issue where people were creating their own doctrine to impose on Mormons. And of course, if you've read your Doctrine and Covenants, you know that's a naughty no-no. We are not required to listen to you if you tell us that we are not allowed to see X-rated movies or R-rated movies, until Benson, as the president of the church, said it over the pulpit of conference in that same talk. But you didn't listen very carefully, and you didn't utilize your English grammar sentence structure. There is not a period after "don't watch R-rated movies." There's more to that which adds to the meaning. That R. And so, if you were to just say that all rated R movies are evil, you are wrong. The church has never given the commandment not to watch R-rated movies. And yet, everybody goes to his talk to justify it. No, Travis. And I go, no, you're illiterate. Because he also throws in Article of Faith number 13 afterward. After he talks about pregnancy is a pernicious evil. Good times. Hilarious. And so, yeah, anything beautiful, lovely, of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after it. Porn. Is it beautiful? Yeah. Lovely? Oh, yeah. Good report? I call it good. It's a matter of opinion because it's art. And science because it teaches sex ed, which the church doesn't want you to know sex ed. It's abstinence only, and thus cause rape. And so it is supposed to be protected according to the laws of the land, the First Amendment. But no, the church keeps pushing to get it banned for the whole nation. And they've joined forces with evangelical idol worshippers to ban porn and cause rape. And Roe v. Wade has now been overturned, so yeah, okay for rape, but not a woman who doesn't want to keep the rape baby, whose life is now destroyed because of the rapist. Well, you should have been married to a good Christian husband to take care of you so that you can stay at home, barefoot, pregnant, uneducated, no career, just having baby after baby after baby after baby, maybe doing the pool boy every now and then. What's the point of getting married if you're going to have your wife do the pool boy? I don't get it. That's the whole point about men not wanting to commit, is they don't want to commit to one woman. They want to commit to lots of women. It's so sad. And Carol also sent me a link. No, I can't allow that link on my comments. And so, no, I'm not interested in that man's story. He is lying about Joseph Smith. He did not do his research properly. He is claiming that Joseph Smith is trying to merge Christianity and Judaism together into Judeo-Christian values. No. That's the abominable Christians who did that stunt. Joseph Smith was not Christian. Joseph Smith condemned Christianity, condemned Jesus, calling him abominable. And thus the great and abominable church of Jesus Christ, ta-da, it's a real easy connection to make, but because of Brigham Young, everybody's been fooled. And so, no, that 500 plus page paper of his is all worthless. He got it all wrong because he made that big error in his premises. And so, I also checked on Alan F. Parker, the Nepo baby that was put into the 70 because of Elder Packer, who became President Packer, and learned that Nelson booted him out. After Daddy died, Nelson booted him out. October 6, 2018, he was released. You know, so that's how the prophets think about Elder Packer. Isn't that great? Alright, so let's redo the video. Because there's a lot of confusion, as now there's a third lawsuit concerning the church and tithing spending, calling it a donation. And so again, we'll try it again. Right before Thanksgiving last year, the Book of the Law of God was released by President Russell Marion Nelson on the Joseph Smith Papers. it wasn't supposed to be included because it's part of the Brigham Young document papers that they're working on now. The church had made the big announcement. They released their final thing, and they didn't. That's right. I meant to cover it in a video yesterday or 2 days ago. But they released the Book of the Law, Remind Me Book of Mormon videos. They didn't come out with them. It was supposed to have January as the first release of the new stuff to finish off the Book of Mormon videos, which they also said they finished last year. And they forgot for this month. They didn't put them out for this month. So that's interesting. Something happened. I guess they didn't want to put out the war stories after all. Not faith promoting. The Book of the Law was rushed, and so it wasn't fully typed out like everything else. And so in order to see what's on them, I did my live 6-hour, 6-video presentation for you. Or it could have been 12 hours. It was a long time, long videos. I think it's still on my homepage, that whole series, and I've been adding to it whenever I talk about the Book of the Law and Doctrine and Covenants, section 85. And so I had to read from the photo prints that they put online. And yes, I collected all of them. After I did the video series, then I went and downloaded every single page of every single book so that I would have that record, because that is vital and crucial. Because the church says that it supports 119, section 119. That this is the receipt of the loyal members who paid tithing. You'll notice that certain people are missing when I went over the videos with you. And there are certain people who are in there, and you're like, what? Why is this other person submitting it on behalf of them? And wait a minute, they're supposed to be the polygamous wives of this person. And so, yes, the Book of the Law of God is actually the Danite criminal organization ledger. All criminal organizations have a ledger by which they collect the protection racket money. And so, if you're familiar with the mafia or crime organizations here in America, if you've seen The Godfather or Sopranos, they have a front business that's legitimate. And that business goes around to those that utilize the business. And the businesses have to pay extra in the process of paying for the services of the business. So Sopranos, for example, sanitation is their front business. And so when they go around to collect the monthly dues for taking out their trash, they also take more for the protection racket, for the criminal operation. And the United States has created the RICO laws to go after such crime organizations. And they then went underground into unions and insurance companies, which are now fully supported and forced upon the American people by our government. You know, they make us believe that criminal organizations are gone, and then they're the criminal organization. And so, yeah, the church under Brigham Young was doing this. He's the leader of the secret band of Gadianton called the Danites, judges in Hebrew. And so, as the secret combination, it's not just a government entity, a council of 50. It's not just the religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that the Book of Mormon says is the great and abominable church, because it's this band of secret Gadianton Danites. But also they have an economy. And this ledger exposes that when Joseph Smith made the announcement that the Nauvoo Temple is going to be built, Joseph Smith asked for donations, not tithing. This is what the church is lying to you about. And so, because it's donations, he didn't keep a record. There was no ledger of Joseph Smith's collections for the temple. So, what is Brigham doing? Brigham is using Section 85, which was a letter from Joseph Smith to W.W. Phelps on November 27th, 1832. And so this being a letter was not put into the Book of Commandments of 1833, nor did Joseph put it in the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants. And nor did Brigham Young put it in the 1844 Doctrine and Covenants that Brigham had, which Section 119 was put in. Brigham Young knows this document because Brigham Young would finally put it in the year before he died. And despite knowing this, despite doing the ledger, calling it the Book of the Law from Section 85, not Section 119. It's kind of weird. He should have also released this to justify the continuing of the Book of the Law, which he does. He makes a big major boo-boo that exposes him on this, that I'm the only one who caught, because I'm the only one doing the research. And so let's go over Section 100 or Section 85, and then go over Section 119, listing out all of the crimes and corruptions in it, because it's more than just priestcraft. And so W.W. Phelps is the Lord's clerk. It is the duty of the Lord's clerk. Joseph is writing a letter to W.W. Phelps. And actually, technically, he's the bishop, isn't he? So he's talking about the responsibility of the bishop having a need for a clerk, right? Isn't that the case? So he's talking about tithing in Section 85. Brigham Young did not publish this. He left in Section 64, talking about tithing from Malachi. We should probably read that one first. Section 64 also tells Mormons to get out of the great and abominable church. This is where Hinckley quotes from in that little clip I give you, threatening you that you're all going to die if you don't pay tithing. Because it's under section 119 as an extortion threat. You will not be protected. Your business will be in jeopardy. I can't guarantee that the other rival mafia won't do damage to you because you're not paying up. I am not able to afford to protect you. And of course, they're the ones that cause the damage to force them to pay up to be protected. But it's supposed to be that if the other rival mafia does damage, that's messing with the other mafia boss's territory, and so you're not really protected. It's just a cause for the one mafia to go to war with the other. Anyway, you'd have to watch the movies or the TV shows. They're rated R. Church says no rated R movies. Alright, so how long is this? Let's just do the part on the tithing. He's talking to the elders of the church and talking to some people, Isaac Morley and Frederick G. Williams. And here we have 22 in section 64. After that day, I, the Lord, will not hold any guilty that shall go with an open heart up to the land of Zion. For I, the Lord, require the hearts of the children of men. Notice the hearts, not the money. Behold, now it is called today. Tomorrow it is called tomorrow. Until it is today. And then it will be called today. Until the coming of Jesus, right? Son of Man. That's not Jesus. Jesus is not the Son of Man. He's the Son of a Holy Ghost. Unless it's Mormon doctrine, then it's Heavenly Father who comes from outer space and rapes him. Rapes his mother. Verily, it is a day of sacrifice, and a day for the tithing of my people. For he that is tithed shall not be burned at his coming. This is where you need to take in section 85 into consideration here. This is where the book of the law comes in. Why Nelson released it. But they didn't talk about section 85. They only talked about section 119 to claim it's legitimate. He's talking about Malachi, where Malachi says, will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. Wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and donations, offerings. Tithing is not a donation. Bring ye all the tithes, not the offerings, into the storehouse. What is the storehouse? Yeah, the bishop's storehouse. Joseph of Egypt, storehouses. When Pharaoh had his dream. And so Joseph recommended stocking up on extra stuff to be put in storehouses. Pithom and Ramses. And I could explain all that. Most people, and like the Ten Commandments even, botched it, claiming that it was Pharaoh Ramses of the Exodus. No, it's not literal history, but no, it's the wrong Pharaoh anyway, and it's a different video. The storehouses for the poor. Joseph of Egypt, for those suffering from the drought. Malachi, for the poor. Ezekiel 16. Yeah, 16. 17 is the parable of the Mormon Christ, where he will be born, where he will be raised, where he will move to as a child. We're not talking about that one either, again. In 16, it explains why Sodom was destroyed. Neglecting the poor. You thought it was being gay? No. They neglected the poor. This is why Malachi says, the day that shall burn as an oven requires tithing to take care of the poor so that you won't be destroyed like Sodom, like Egypt. This is what is meant. See, Brigham Young, when he fled America to come to this valley, he used, and I'm jumping ahead, and I didn't write that one down. Flee USA and abandon the Mormons, which was a fulfillment of Joseph Smith's prophecy parable in section 101, starting in verse 43. It's verse 51. And Brigham is the enemy. But he's the one who caused the enemy to come in upon the Mormons, paying the Judas price with the secret band of Danites who paid tithing to Brigham. We're jumping ahead. Get to the point, Travis. Just spit it out. Quit explaining. Quit showing your math. Just give us the answers. We promise we won't believe you anyway. And we won't respect you in the morning. And so, and then he goes and talks more about the burning and gets graphic and detailed. I will burn them up. Proud and the wicked will be as stubble. Will not spare any that remain in Salt Lake City Valley. Babylon is the great and abominable church. Section 1, verse 16. Go back to verse 14. It's talking to Mormons of the religion. Talking to Mormons that Babylon is going to be destroyed because of Mormons being wicked. And so, because of Brigham Young saying this is the right place, this now becomes Babylon. And it just happens to be phonetically the same as Judah. The J is a Y sound. Utah. Top of the mountain. And then he talks about Newell K. Whitney, who's a Danite, should sell their store and their possessions and go to Zion. He goes to Adam-on-Diamond, the secret headquarters of the Danites. Alrighty? We should not be in debt to our enemies. We need to read verse 30. And he hath set you to provide for his saints in these last days, that they may obtain an inheritance in Zion. Okay? Now we can go to section 85. To the Bishop W.W. Phelps for being a naughty boy, and talks about the Lord's clerk under the bishop, whom he has appointed to keep a history and a general church record of all things that transpire in Zion. For all those who consecrate properties, see, this is Joseph Smith's method of tithing. This is Joseph Smith's economy. It's not section 119. That's why Brigham Young did not publish this until the year before he died. Even though this has the law of God that Brigham Young was doing because of this letter. And thus exposes Brigham. And receive inheritances legally from the bishop. So this is called tithing to Joseph Smith. Consecrating properties. Getting what you need and want through the bishop. And this is what Joseph Smith explains in the Book of Mormon. Well, it's the Book of Mormon that explains it when defining priestcraft. In 2 Nephi chapter 26. He defines priestcraft in verse 29 and then condemns it in verse 30. Talks about needing to have love. Don't say that charity is now the new definition of love. No, this is not an ancient record. It's not a literal history. They're trying to correct the errors in the 1769 King James Version of the Bible so that it can be the Word of God. Charity, 2 Corinthians, is it? 13? Charity is not unvaunted, not puffed up, holdeth all things, believeth all, whatever that long list is. If you watch a movie or a TV show that has a Catholic marriage, or a regular Christian one, they don't give a denomination, you'll hear them quote that, but they don't say the word charity. They say love. That's because love is the correct translation, not charity. That's why you see charity is love, because this is correcting the New Testament. This is not a literal history. This is not an ancient document. This was not translated by the gift and power of God. And I lost Kimberly over this issue. I liked Kimberly. She liked me. But when I tried to explain, no, the Greek word agape is love. And that's what's supposed to be here. And that's why they're saying charity is love, because it's not charity. It's love. No, charity is love. That's the new... Who's the expert? Who did his study? Who got an education on this? And out I go. I miss Kimberly. Now I understand she's doing magical fantasies for couples. Did you not get married again? At least you didn't marry the guy who broke your leg. Anyway. And so here's the economy for Zion. This is the law of consecration. Notice it's not the same as in the temple of Brigham Young. But the laborer in Zion shall labor for Zion. For if they labor for money, they shall perish. Brigham Young's all about money. Joseph Smith was not about money. The Kirtland Safety Society in 1837 was what every town that started up did. But the Danites sabotaged it, and thus why the dating of section 119 for 1838. It's a forged document. And so this is the law of consecration. It's not for money. If you use money or any kind of monetary system, even trading, you will have those who are poor and those who are rich. You will have the human abominable natures of greed, selfishness, jealousy, vengeance, wrath, fury, theft, etc. Covetousness. So to eliminate that human nature part for survival, all you do is the storehouse of Zion gives out what you need and what you want. And all you have to do is provide the surplus of what you contribute. Whatever you want to do, whatever you like to do, do it and share it with everybody else. But you do not determine who gets what, because now you're starting to use it as a monetary system. It must be put into the general storehouse and given out to those who need it. Now, if you end up going online to ziontube.com and tell everybody, I just made this new designer outfit. It's now available in the storehouse. You better make enough for all. So that there won't be that human animalistic behaviors of greed, selfishness, theft, and other stuff. Covetousness. And so, yeah, that's all you have to do. Whatever you like to do, you do. And you may say, well, we have basic necessities of food. Who's going to do the farming? Have you not heard of robotic automation? Yeah, we can have robotic automation do the manual labor work. But if people want to learn how to do it themselves, great. If you want your own garden, great. You won't have a surplus, will you? It'll just be for you and your family. And so that will not be expected for Zion. The surplus. And you need to make a surplus. You can't be an independent people or do a couple of things only for you and your family and then go to Zion and say, give me what I need and want. Because you're not contributing to Zion. You're not laboring for Zion. You're not helping others prosper. You're hoarding your talents and gifts and production. You're stealing. And so clearly you don't want to be a part of Zion. And so you don't want to be in Zion. So bye-bye. Go back out into the world that has been burned That simple. And that's how you eliminate the human factor. The only thing that won't be solved is hearts. The desire for mating. And I don't know how to fix that one, to eliminate the human factor on that. You know, we can't take away agency by doing assigned arranged marriages. You gotta let people have their agency. But nonetheless, I don't know how to fix that one. And so this is what Joseph Smith is trying out in Section 85 before they went into the other place and tried the bank that the Danites sabotaged. And so this is what he went back to after the bank failed. He didn't do Section 119, completely violating the Book of Mormon that I just read over with you. And so he says that the clerk is also supposed to record the manner of life, their faith, and works. Well, why? Isn't it faith without works? And also of the apostate Korahors who used faith without works, who apostatized after receiving their inheritances. I just told you who the apostates are. The ones who are greedy and selfish and will not give of themselves to Zion. They are only doing it for them and their family. They are apostates. They do not care for Zion. You prospered because you took from Zion, and you are not contributing back to Zion? You are taking and not giving. That is apostasy. You prospered because of Zion, and you won't contribute to make others prosper along with you. You are using Zion as a monetary system. You can't have that because Zion will be destroyed if it's allowed. And so because you are trying to destroy Zion, you gotta go. It is contrary to the will and commandment of God that those who receive not an inheritance by consecration agreeable to this law which he has given, that he may tithe his people, again, not 10%, consecration, to prepare them against the day of vengeance and burning. Again, back to Malachi, the day that shall burn as an oven, the abomination of desolation. Should have their names enrolled with the people of God. If you're not interested in being a Zion person, you cannot stay in Zion. You got to go. Get out. You are the enemy trying to destroy Zion. And so likewise, if you put in lead in your products to Zion, you're behaving just like China towards America and other countries they trade with. And everybody keeps trading with China, and China keeps putting lead in products designed for children. And we don't punish China. Nonetheless. Neither is their genealogy to be kept. That's where Malachi talks about the hearts of the sons to the fathers and the fathers to the son. Otherwise, the earth will be smitten with a curse. Utterly wasted, says Joseph. If nobody is obedient and leaves to go build Zion, There's no more humans left on the face of the earth. They're all utterly destroyed. Human extermination event. And so that's what Malachi is warning. We need to perpetuate the species. Even if all the women agree that even though I or whoever other guy is in Zion being the last man on earth, they don't want him. The human race dies with me. Neither the records of their family. Gone. And so that's interesting that certain names are gone in the book of the law. Their names shall not be found, neither the names of their fathers nor the names of their children written in the book of the law of God. So the law of God is told to us it's those who are in Zion. It's for the latter days. Joseph Smith isn't making a law of God and putting apostates listed in there to remove them from the records of the church. Because they're supposed to record the apostates who apostatize. But their genealogy and their membership in Zion, gone. But Joseph didn't do this. He did not have a book of the law of God. Thus saith the still small voice. What is that? That's a foreign doctrine. It's a still small feeling, which whispereth through and pierceth all things, and maketh my bones to quake, and while it maketh manifest. Saying, here we got a prophecy for the latter days, when Zion will fail. Because Mormons don't believe, and it's already 50 minutes in. Most Mormons are gone. And it shall come to pass that I, the Lord God, will send one mighty and strong, the Jewish Christ of Mormons. Not Jesus. So this is the latter days. And he is to set in order the temple. Brigham Young, as a missionary, had no keys of authority over the temple. He did not get told and commissioned by Joseph to do the temple endowment with the 5 laws of abomination. But the church wants you to believe so. And to arrange by lot. So now the bishop's being usurped here in the latter days. The inheritances of the saints, whose names are found, and the names of their fathers and of their children enrolled in the book of the law of God. Those who come to Zion. And as you see, yeah, if you survive and want to go to Zion to help build it up, you will be automatically put in. This is all they have to do at the southern border, and they won't do it. We have the technology to fingerprint and document in a digital file for all policing forces in the nation to utilize and access everybody who comes into the border seeking asylum or wanting to immigrate, become a naturalized citizen. And Congress is required to set uniform standards for naturalization. And so everybody has to go through that same process. And so if you're not in the system, you automatically get an opportunity. Come to America. But if you break the law in America after being allowed in, you get kicked out. But your document is still on file so that when you come to the border again, now you're going to have to explain to the judge why you're a criminal and got kicked out. And it's going to be harder for you to get back in again. Real easy breezy cover girl. And if you're concerned about Al-Qaeda sneaking in with weapons and drugs, are the border guards incapable of frisking them? Is that too hard? Because, if they catch you with drugs and weapons, you're going to have a hard time convincing the judge you want to come to America, to live as an American. And then you'll be documented in the filing system so that if you try to come to the border again or go through any other border or port of entry, they will have you in the system and they will go, oh, yeah, you were kicked out because you were in possession of drugs and weapons. And oh, look, you had them again when we frisked you. It's not complicated. They are purposely making it complicated to cause problems. But Zion, all these complications are not going to exist. You want to come to Zion? Fine. You got to live according to the Zion law. If you want to destroy Zion, you're out. And so the apostates, you're gone. You will be documented. So if you try to come in again, nope. You didn't want to. That means you're coming back because you're an enemy. Unless you come back with the fruits of repentance. I want to come back. I've made this whole several truckloads of clothing to contribute. Okay, you can come in now. We'll give you a second chance because you repented. Got to keep it up. And if you're sick and elderly, no, don't. Not required. Automatically taken care of by Zion. Children, automatically taken care of if you are orphaned. Not forced to work. Again, you have to demonstrate love. Love to help other people prosper. So that all may prosper. And it's not communism where you all get the same amount of food. But I'm a big boy. I'm a little baby. Obviously not the same equal amount of food. It's what you need and what you want. And what others need and what others want. And thus are all equal independently. And so not everybody wants the same diet. Too many people want to destroy Zion. Well, how are you going to pay for it? And so it goes on to continue to talk about the apostates written in the book of remembrance. Shall not find inheritance in that day, shall be cut asunder. And so there's different books. There's the book that records those who have apostatized and are removed from the book of the law, book of the remembrance. That's how the church keeps their membership records. Even though you leave the church or are excommunicated, you are not listed as a Mormon, but you are still on the records of the church, in case you didn't know this. This is where they got it from. Okay, weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth for the apostates, the unbelievers. They who are of the high priesthood, and it's capitalized, which means the apostles. We all knew this when we were doing the revision of the footnotes. We all were, yeah. High priesthood means, when it's capitalized, that it's the apostles, the leaders. And so the leaders are expected to apostatize in the latter days. Not be found in the book of the law. And Brigham Young is not found in the book of the law. Sorry, all of you youngs. Can't come in. Or have apostatized or been cut off from the church, as well as the lesser priesthood, to have been cut off from the church, and members in that day shall not have inheritance of the saints of Emmanuel, the Most High Sun God at noonday. Therefore it shall be done unto them as the children of the priests, in the second chapter, 61st and 62nd verses of Ezra. We don't need to go over that. There's just family groups that were denied because they were evil. Alrighty. So 1 hour. And so part 2, the second hour, section 119. And should we read it and then go over the list of, because there's the list. July 8th, 1838. Sure. Whatever. Joseph Smith becomes a Danite leader, murders Mormons, demands they pay tithing, changes the name of the church to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but forgot to make the change in his visionary history that he wrote that same year. So Willard Richards corrects the founder and puts in Jesus. And Willard Richards was the only one in the room in Carthage jail when Joseph Smith was assassinated. Wait a minute. That means Willard shot him in the back and dumped him out the window. Yeah, Willard Richards is also the one who claimed that Joseph Smith was practicing polygamy marriages with child brides even in 1843. Oops! They kept a document ledger of all of the sealings of polygamy. And oops, it was in 1846. And Willard Richards is one of those who's getting sealed to polygamous wives, and sure enough, to a 14 and 16-year-old sisters. Oops. If you're gonna cover up your crimes and sins, you shouldn't be recording them in books, telling other people that it happened another time. It was Joseph. He did it. He sealed us. This says 1846. Joseph has been dead for 2 years now. Verily thus saith the Lord, I require all their surplus property to be put into the hands of my bishop of my church in Zion. For the building of my house, for the laying of the foundation of Zion, and for the priesthood, and for the debts of the presidency of this church, of my church. 1844, Joseph is dead. Brigham Young all of a sudden says, hey, I guess Joseph Smith said Jesus is overturning the Book of Mormon. That's part of it. Do I even have it listed here? I don't. Another one. Book of Mormon invalid. And this shall be the beginning of the tithing of my people. Now for more tithing. After that, those who have thus been tithed shall pay 1/10 of all their interest annually. Thank you, sir. May we give some more. And this shall be the standing law. I don't see donation here. Unto them forever, for my holy priesthood, saith Jesus. Verily I say unto you, it shall come to pass that all those who gather unto the land of Zion shall be tithed of their surplus properties, and shall observe this law, not donation, or they shall be found, not be found worthy to abide among you. See, he's referring to section 85, but he's rewriting it. He's referring to section 64, but rewriting it. Tongue twister. And I say unto you, if my people observe not this law to keep it holy, and by this law sanctify the land of Zion unto me, that my statutes and my judgments, 12, well, it's in here for temples too, and for Zion, may be kept thereon, that it may be most holy. Behold, verily I say unto you, it shall not be a land of Zion unto you. This shall be an ensample unto all the stakes of Zion, even so, amen. Joseph Smith is dead. Brigham Young brings it out in the New Doctrine and Covenants of 1844. He had already been practicing this. As the Book of the Law says, 1842 at the earliest, after Joseph Smith had announced the temple in Nauvoo. The book was originally different papers. When the papers were finished, they would go to the print press to be put onto the plates, and then the print press to make the book with a binding. The binding was made by Brigham Young, and thus the Book of the Law on the outside cover was by Brigham Young. And so the beginning stuff of Joseph Smith's journals and stuff like that, separate pages. They used those pages to be made into the Book of the Law of God with Brigham Young's ledger to claim it's Joseph's. But you can see the handwriting evidence of differences, anomalies. That was one of the benefits of actually going to the picture documents. Because if they had actually done the work to take their time and have it all typed out, yeah, I would have taken a shortcut and not realized what was actually being done there. So they're rushing, their haste to get it out before Thanksgiving is why I was able to expose this. And so it was a list of those who were Danites paying the extortion racket to be Danites under Brigham Young, to betray Joseph Smith, and was used as the Judas money to have Joseph Smith murdered, and to pay for the Vanguard company that fled the United States and abandoned the Mormons. The parable in section 101, verse 51, that Joseph Smith also refers to in 19 July 1840. That's a fun one. He exposes Brigham Young as the leader of the Danites, who would murder Joseph. That's why Brigham Young never had that one published. And so this is a law. This is not a donation. And as a law, it's an extortion racket. You are not guaranteed protection. You're being used as chattel, which, likewise, with the Heber J. Grant's Articles of Incorporation to restore the church after the United States shut them down for tithing. Perpetual Immigration Fund by Brigham Young to get the poor Mormons to the valley to build up an army against the United States of America that took over Brigham Young's kingdom, dethroned him. And so he's now involved in slave trading of the Mormons that he converted to the wrong name of the church. They only know the church by the name Brigham Young and his Danites gave them. And now he's slave trading them. They have to pay that money back. Just like Hinckley, when for third world countries, he talks about the Perpetual Immigration Fund and says we're going to follow that pattern for the Perpetual Education Fund. He's human trafficking third world country Mormons for education as the front. It's slave trading. The Mormons who get the education through the loan of the Perpetual Education Fund have to pay it back. The church never does anything for free. It's always a business that they profit from. But unfortunately, Hinckley was able to get away with this because he's not requiring, or he's not granting citizenship once they pay it back. But because of this, because of Section 85, he is, but for a future time. Because those Mormons outside of Utah, because Nelson claims Salt Lake Temple Square is Zion. And so in the millennium, if the church needs more Mormons, he will put out the call to the foreign Mormons to come to Zion, just like Brigham did. And because you've paid tithing, you're on the records, you will get an inheritance in Zion for conference weekend this April. We'll still have to wait and see. Illinois just allowed Trump to be put on the ballot. So the backup is in place still. Supreme Court hasn't made their decision yet. Texas is still seceded from the nation, 3 Nephi chapter 7, along with MAGA states that are supporting Texas and doing similar things in their state, just like Utah is. Yeah, we just segregated LGBTQ here in Utah. Governor Cox just signed it into law. Oh, the church is turning progressive. They're now building bridges. How can you be so stupid? How? They're playing you for chumps. They're setting you up just like Hitler did. Why? And so that's the slavery. The law of consecration. I should probably read that. I'm losing my memorization on that one. And I don't think New Name Noah has the video for that. Maybe he does. Maybe I got it. Because I do recall a sealing video of his. And so I think I do have it. Part of the problem is that I'm clicking and nothing happens, and I have to click it again, and oh, why didn't it recognize it the first time? There it is, and sure enough it's going to show too. So white screen of death. Got the final season of Magnum PI reboot. It's so awesome. Yep. Higgy Baby is now Hottie Higgy Baby in the reboot. And having sex with Magnum this time. The old Higgins never had sex with Magnum. Far improved, and I notice she's blossoming in this final season. It's very interesting. I want to know more. LDS Dalmat.org, and see, I've already got all these documented in files, and so ceilings. And they've never changed this. The woman is still the sex slave to her husband. She's still his property. And nobody seems to understand that this is tied to the law of obedience and the law of chastity. And women think, oh, I get to wear slacks now, and I don't get to wear the veil, and Eve has a bigger speaking role. The church is turning progressive. You miss the law of chastity where child bride polygamy is back. And so we didn't want the marriage one, though. We wanted the terrestrial world for the law of consecration. A couple will now come to the altar. We are instructed to give unto you the law of consecration as contained in the book of Doctrine and Covenants, in connection with the law of the gospel, which is now the higher law of Jesus, which is child bride polygamy, and the law of sacrifice, because there is no higher law in the Gospels. What are you talking about? It's not in the Gospels, therefore it's not errors and all of the 1769 King James Version and 3rd Nephi. Where are you getting this higher law from? Yeah, section 132. As contained in the book of Doctrine and Covenants, in connection with the law of the gospel and the law of sacrifice, where you have to give up your own life to save and protect the church from criminal prosecution. That's why you can't sue the church in Utah, because everybody will sacrifice their career to commit crimes to protect the church's crimes, which you have already received. It is that you do consecrate yourselves. It's supposed to be what you make. You are now a slave. Your time, slave. Talents, well, that is the economy of Zion, but not yourself and your time. You can take whatever time you want. You can have robotic automation to make the products for you while you go and do other things. You will be given any tools, equipment, whatever you need to make what you can make and want to make and make. And so you can literally do a whole bunch of stuff if you want. And so the parable of talents, yeah, some people are only capable of doing one thing. Oh, good for you. Others can do lots of things. This will be your opportunity to do that. And so, yeah, all of it is for Zion. Because when everybody prospers, you prosper. Because everybody's prospering. And the more people involved, the more prosperous Zion becomes. The more diverse of products that we have in Zion. Because if you only have a few people, yeah, carrots again for dinner. I think we really should expand. But just look at how good your eyes are. And everything with which the Lord has blessed you, or with which he may bless you, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the building up of the kingdom of God, section 119, on earth, and for the establishment of Zion, the future Zion. If you've been paying attention to the prophets, they've been talking about this church being the church and kingdom. They're in denial that the United States shut them down in 1887. Okay? It was designed after section 119. You are a slave. You have to give to the church. You are a slave. You do not have free time. This is why they don't want people who think to make life easier. This is why my parents and those growing up in the church around me always talked about, see, Adam had to sweat to live, so must you. You can't use your brain to make life easier. You can't use your brain to turn your life into a paradise. A Garden of Eden. You have to work hard. You can't just walk into this high-powered position with high pay. You have to work hard. You have to earn it. But you are the son of inheritance and went right in. I earned it. I worked hard to go golfing all day. These are the excuses they make. We all know it. And so as slaves, you are chattel. Just as the reincorporation of Heber J. Grant in 1923. Mormons are no longer members of a religion. You are now chattel to pay Section 119. Tithing. Priestcraft. This is also what I've been trying to explain for you. Reparations. Jesus atoned for us, according to our doctrinal beliefs. And as such, we don't pay him back. Except for Section 119, we pay him back. It's to the Lord. I require. And it's not to the Lord, is it? It's to the president of the church and the leaders. Priestcraft. It's not the stake president or the bishop. Only the prophets of Brigham Young's church. And so Mormons are having to pay Jesus back for his atonement for us, which was supposed to be free. And like I said, it's the Judas money. That book of the law was the money given to Brigham Young in secret. This was a secret combination economy. And Brigham Young used that to pay the Warsaw Lodge members to go to Carthage jail, painted as blackface, to try to murder Joseph. And as a backup, just in case, Willard Richards and John Taylor were sent there to make sure the job was done. And after Joseph chased them out with the 6-shooter, that's when Willard and John Taylor were activated. And I do that video every single year for Joseph's death day. It is an extortion racket. As Hinckley says, you have to pay or you're going to burn in the latter days. We call it fire insurance. That's a protection racket of a mafia crime organization. It's illegal. You can't threaten people to pay you, because there's no guarantee they're going to protect us. In fact, Nelson's even been murdering you. Those who've been paying tithing, Nelson has murdered you already. Your family and friends who have died have been murdered by Nelson. He knew in advance, in January, called China. He knew how serious it was, and he didn't tell any of us. He kept it a secret. And then in April conference, a temple in China, and none of you can go. He knew and did not tell us. He did not warn us. He did not prepare us. He did not open up the bishop's storehouses to make sure that we had a supply to wait until it passed over. That was the Exodus year. And you missed it. You also have to pay the church to save your dead ancestors. They're going to burn in hell if you don't pay up and do their temple work. Because you can't go to the temple unless you're paid. And yes, Nelson has made the change. You can now do a partial tithe payer and still go to the temple. Still keep your temple recommend. But to have tithing as a condition for worthiness is the extortion racket. Protect your deceased ancestors by paying up. And there's no guarantee that they'll be saved, because this obviously isn't the right church. It's a false Christ and a false prophet, if you hadn't been catching on. They do not have authority. They do not have power to save any of you. And there's a quote on that. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. It's Lectures on Faith. This was the doctrine of the Doctrine and Covenants that was removed by Heber J. Grant in the 1921 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. Let us here observe that a religion that does not require the sacrifice of all things, which they do, you're a slave. That's not what they're referring to here. Never has the power sufficient to produce the faith necessary unto life and salvation. So, yeah, somebody else is adding extra stuff into it. The church, they're quoting from it. And yet it's now a false doctrine. It's been rejected. It's not part of the canon anymore. We got a little musical beat in the background. Isn't that great? He's got the bass in the back of his vehicle. And so, yeah, if you hadn't caught on, you sacrifice for Zion, but you're not really sacrificing because you do it willingly. You love what you do, but you're doing it for Zion, not just yourself and your family. And in that's the sacrifice, which my burden is easy and my yoke is light. You are not yoked to Jesus. And so, this also nullifies the Book of Mormon. When I read to you that the Lord does not approve of priestcraft, but here the Lord says, I require priestcraft. That's a blatant contradiction. One Christ is not telling the right truth. Oh no. And so, you have to pick, Mormons. Who are you going to follow? Lucifer and his plan of happiness? Or, it's real simple. Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon are not this church. Not a single Mormon should be left in this church. They should all be watching this video to the end and know that this can't be the right church, because section 119 cannot be true and the Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi 26, also be true. They both cannot be true. Jesus cannot say, I do not want priestcraft, and say, here, I require it. This isn't for a different time period thing where, oh, well, in that time, he didn't require priestcraft, but now he does. No, it doesn't work that way. This is a standing law. This will lead to destruction. This will lead to slavery. This is Lucifer's plan. We're told it's Lucifer's plan. This takes away your agency. You are a slave. Everything, your whole life, your whole time is owned by the church. This is Lucifer's happiness. Aren't you happy? Yeah. And so, for the kingdom, I've been warning you that the church going around the world, buying up land to build temples, this is a land grab. The church is all about causing the day that shall burn as an oven. They have been causing this for decades. They have been setting everybody up in the world to destroy the world. And when governments are destroyed, the people don't know how to form a government. Mobocracy, anarchy, usually is the typical result. And who owns the land? Oh, nobody owns the land. Oh, wait, here comes the church. We own the land. Hey, we're multi-trillionaires. You are now subjected to us. We are now your rulers. We own the land, we have the money, we have the power. Join or die. This is what they're plotting. And so for the building of Zion, yeah, it's twofold. It's one, to take over the governments. Not just the United States, not just Utah, the whole world. To have everyone subjected to the church. But they're going to have to flee first and abandon the Mormons, who get burned. The devil never supports his own. Despite you thinking you're going to be protected because you paid tithing. You deserve an inheritance. Yeah, Brigham Young sabotaged them too on that. Devil never supports his own. It's a standard law. And those who follow Lucifer always get upset when it happens to them. Without fail. You knew this was going to be the consequence. And you gambled thinking, oh, it's not going to happen to me. And it happened to you. And now you're upset? Really? Seriously? When I first moved here, I was told by a woman who told me that, yeah, when Brigham Young had to do away with the law of consecration, people lost their land and they were unhappy, and the family feuds still exist to this day. You know? The Bundys, Allreds, yep. Those are apostate core whores, Travis. And so, yeah, this is also the blood money, the Judas money, to fund the day that shall burn as an oven, to overthrow the governments. This is the financial receipt of seditious conspiracy. And the way to perfection. Should have pulled that book out. Not sure which box it would have been put in. But I've been doing the videos. Lucifer gets to go to Adam on Diamond in the big priesthood meeting and hand over the keys of all the governments, the keys of the kingdom, the keys of Melchizedek. Lucifer has the keys of Melchizedek, keys of the kingdom, and hands them over to Jesus. Here you go. Really? He's just going to hand them over, huh? And we're not going to throw him in jail? But the Mormons won't know about it. Shh. Secret. Obviously, it's not true. They're talking about their conspiracy plot to overthrow the governments. Not just the United States, not just Utah. That's why Mormon Danites are in positions of power in Utah government and in the United States. It's to make sure that those who have been bribed, compromised in government, carry it out. Just like they did in 1838 to overthrow Joseph Smith. But Joseph Smith still was president of the church until he died in 1844, Travis. He got out of Liberty Jail. Duh. And Joseph, when he got back, had to make some changes. What are you doing, Brigham? Put my brother back in. He's spying on you for me. Thomas B. Marsh was a good man. Your exalting of yourself was uncalled for. 1839 Joseph Smith Papers. And so, no, Thomas B. Marsh was not excommunicated by Joseph Smith over defending his wife's honor. That was a Danite lie. Again, spoken by presidents of the church over the pulpits of conference to make it canon law. Just as Nelson did with all of these sections from 1838. And then Joseph Smith history exposes it. Brigham never wanted the Joseph Smith history. That was because of President Richards in the England mission, who put it in the pamphlet. And so when he came to Utah, Salt Lake City, he brought it back with him. And so it was published as a pamphlet under John Taylor, but it was not made canon as a pearl of great price until I think actually the 1981 edition for the quad, because it had been published but it was not considered canon of the church prior to. It was 1981 that they finally made it canon. Brigham Young wanted nothing to do with the Joseph Smith history, even though they had changed it. Willard Richards is in the Joseph Smith Papers of making the change. So, yeah, that's all I have listed. So, flee America. And so, yeah, we're paying them to make them rich and to flee right before the day that shall burn as an oven. Just as Brigham Young did to the early saints. And so the prophets and their families will be able to flee while the rest of us fight for survival. And yeah, that's planned for 8 April 2024. So that conference is the last conference. And that's the title of a video that I still need to make. Final General Conference. Okay. I'm got too huge of a pile again. I retired last year, and so I was able to throw them all away. So I've now got an overflowing pile again after having come out of retirement when the Battle of Armageddon began on October 7th. And already, just like bullies, yeah, the UN is now responsible. And the UN were the ones who blamed Israel for being war criminals. And it was the UN who set it all up in the beginning with Hamas. Hilarious. Yep. Yeah, Anna Kasparian doesn't want to talk about it. Because they're progressive news, which means they're not really news. They're tabloid journalism. And they have to placate their progressive base, which is Islam. And so they have betrayed America. They are seditious conspirators. It was very sad to see that in America. Everybody's trying to destroy it. Constitution has fallen because of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in section 119. They want their kingdom back. And they are getting you to pay for it. They got you to pay the Judas price. Just as Judas did. It wasn't Judas's money out of Judas's pocket. It was the money given to him by the members, according to the story. Because it's not literal history. It didn't happen. It's a prophecy of the latter days. Ta-da! Fulfilled. It's Mormons. That's why he's named Judas. Because it's Judah. Also betrayed his brother. And is phonetically the same as Utah. The betrayer.